huh? All right, here we are.
Believe the lie, so everything that I know says I gotta go, tired of going solo. But I'm never gonna go there again. This is what it is, this is who I am, this is where I finally take my stand. I didn't want to fall, but I don't have to grow. I'm not the one with two star hands, giving him the best of everything that's left of the life inside of this man. I've been born again.
Good morning, David.
It is a good day. It is, especially if you're a Florida Panthers fan.
Oh, yeah. So you know, huh? Yeah. You missed the pre-show show, those of you on our regular channel, but the YouTube or Facebook. I'm sorry, Facebook, Facebook fans that are watching the live show, or if you're watching it, the replay on Facebook, you got to hear our little different stories about the glue wine, the glow wine and stuff like that. Some of our stories about Christian music and all of that. So if you want to get in on that, you'll have to get on to Facebook and find us there, which is Facebook / Fresh Black.Coffee.
Yes.
I had a friend, he said he couldn't find it on there. He tried, but he couldn't.
I don't know.
It's just facebook.com / Fresh Black.Coffee, right?
Yeah, I'd get rid of the spaces probably.
Well, I don't think there were any spaces.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, but I told him to go to the other one, freshblack.coffee, and he could find us there.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of Florida Panthers, he's speaking of this certain NHL or National Hockey League team that was, it barely squeaked into the playoffs, into the Eastern Division playoffs. But
the wild of the wild cards.
The wild of the wild cards that has now squeaked into the finals, into the Stanley Cup final.
Stanley Cup, baby.
So this is it. We're now waiting on the Dallas Stars, formerly North Stars, the Minnesota North Stars.
Yes.
But they are
lost
waiting
the
on
faith.
Yeah.
They went south for the winter and never came back.
Never came back. So the Florida Panthers are waiting to play the winner of Dallas and Las Vegas.
Now, what game are they in their series?
The fifth game.
This is it.
Yeah, it was 3-0.
Yes.
Las Vegas had won 3 straight, and Dallas won the second game in Dallas. So they have won. So Dallas is going to have to win 3 straight to.
So it's best of 7.
It's best of 7. Every series in their playoffs is no 3 out of 5s. It's all 4 out of 7.
Gotcha.
So basically, you have to win essentially 12 games just to get to the championship. And then it's another. Then to win the Stanley Cup, because you've got the 2 first division, first round, second round, then finally. So now the Panthers have to sit back and wait. Sometimes I wonder, is it better to get the time to rest and have anybody injured recover, or is it best to just be able to keep sharp?
All depends what your injury stats look like.
Yeah.
Because if you don't need it, you're right. You should just keep the intensity.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you got time to go home, get in arguments with the wife, have all kinds of issues, honey-do lists, and distractions.
Blame the wife. That's right. It's Eve's fault. It's Eve's fault. She made us lose the Stanley Cup.
I didn't say it was your wife. I just said you have opportunity to get distracted.
No. I hear what you're saying, though. There's too many things that's what I'm thinking. And now, for example, if because the Panthers won on, I think it was Wednesday night. Yeah, it was. It was. They won Wednesday night, and then Friday night was. So they finished. They won 4 in a row. They swept Carolina.
Yeah, just dominant.
And 2 of them were in overtime. The last 2 were overtime wins. Maybe 3 of them.
And Boston don't play nice.
Well, no, it was Carolina.
Well, okay, but then
Boston
they
was the one before.
I'm
sorry. Boston was the first 4 because they were last. Boston was first.
Okay.
And they were last. So the Boston series was 7 games.
Yeah.
Then they went to Toronto. They played the Toronto series. And that one was 5 games. They won 4 out of 5. And then this last one, they just won 4 straight against Carolina Hurricane. Yeah. So all of you people out there.
Yeah.
Here's the funny thing, though. So my wife and I are watching, and I usually don't watch the games because I just get too uptight. I'm the same with Texas Tech football. I don't watch anymore hardly. Wow. I record them, then I go back and watch when they win. But what I do. What I
Eddie does doo-doo.
Eddie does doo-doo. I do. No, but I come in like the last, like in this game, it was the last 2 minutes or so of the game, and I saw the winning goal. There were 30 seconds left, and they just happened to. And the other one, I went in overtime and watched the overtime when they won in the overtime. But so they finished, they hit the goal, and they're excited, and they go running off the ice into the tunnel. And what do I see in the tunnel? There's my son.
Yeah, you posted it on Facebook.
Yeah, there's my son, and he's there and high-fiving. He's all by himself. They're waiting to greet the team, and they slap him a high five as they're going off the ice.
Because, and that's the thing. Eddie's son is, what's his official
He's
title?
Vice President of Player Development.
Okay.
Which is a fancy title.
But when they're on the road, it's whatever needs to be done. You're the guy gets it done, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's the same. He was director of operations at Georgia Tech.
Oh, yeah, just making sure that, people don't get in the locker room who don't need to be in the locker room.
Well, no, that's not it. Operations is they plan all the everything. It's all logistics.
Oh, right. You're right.
Flight, food, travel, gear, hotels.
Right.
You name it. Anything that they have to do, that's what he does.
And then you have to make sure they did it according to how you expected.
Right.
So there's a lot of oversight.
Right. Exactly. That's why he carries 2 phones and he's on them all the time. And,
Yeah, so this is exciting. Yeah. By the way, just get our sports out of the way. My favorite college sport now, the women's softball. The Oklahoma State is already in the College World Series.
I saw that. Was it 9-0 the other night?
Yeah.
They won 9-0.
Shutout. Yeah, powerful. And they're ranked, I don't know, I think they're like 12th or something.
They're like the Panthers.
Yeah.
Like Florida Panthers in hockey.
No.
With OU number 1.
Yeah. Now, the gals, they play about 50 regular season games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And OU has 1 loss. Right now, they're 54-1.
The whole year.
The whole year.
One loss.
1 loss the whole year. And that was to Texas. And it was early on. And then for the first time in like years in the rankings, they dropped to number 2 to UCLA.
Wow.
UCLA moves up to 1. Guess who's next on their schedule? 3 days later, UCLA, they shut them out.
OU shut UCLA out.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now, going into the playoffs, number 2 is still UCLA. They got beat by Grand Canyon, eliminated by Grand Canyon. UCLA. So they're out of it. And OU is, now, they get to host a super regional, and so did OSU. So as we speak right now, they're probably warming up to start the game. So when the podcast is over, tune over to this. And they're expected to win. I think they've only given up like 4 runs in the whole playoffs, And then the other thing I want to say is the permanent home of women's softball, just like the College Baseball World Series is always in Omaha, women's softball is always in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
How sweet is that? And so it's kind of like Bedlam. And last year, we were just so close to a finals of OU versus OSU.
I wonder if OU is as hated in the softball world as Alabama in the football world. See, that comes, that comes with a price. You got to pay the cost to be the boss.
It's true, but when you watch them play, they play with a dignity and a grace and
Oh, yeah.
a professionalism that it's hard not to have an awe and respect for what they do. Probably there's rumors they cheat, right? Because that happens when you win.
Oh, no. I've never heard that.
I
think they're just good. I mean, the girls are good. I mean,
they just are.
You know, now, to me, if someone was going to have a rumor about cheating, it wouldn't be cheating playing. It would be the recruiting type deal.
Yeah.
You know, which is Alabama. I mean, that's what everybody, you know. Georgia now it's Georgia, Ohio State, you know. It's but, you know, to me this goes all the way to youth. In youth soccer I got into this, you know. They come up with these rules to try to make it fair. But in trying to make it fair, you just make people cheat. And because what happens, it's a great example. I'm going to take it spiritual, as we often do, because what happens as soon as you try to make people obey a law or a rule, you're going to get someone to all of a sudden that's going to try to figure a way to circumvent it, right? So let's say, I remember when we came here, the rec rules. You had to have a certain amount, under 10s. You had to have a certain amount of under 9-year-olds and a certain amount of 8-year-olds.
Yes, in recreational
sport.
Yeah.
To be fair, you know, and then the next year.
And everybody gets to play. That's another
right, everybody. But, and then also, you're not supposed to, you can't bring people from another team. They have to go to their school and this and that, unless the dad is the coach.
Oh, yeah. Now you're on to it.
Now you got it. Yeah. So all of a sudden, you know, Dave's son is really good.
Oh, yeah.
So he's my assistant all of a sudden, you know.
Yeah.
So Dave's son and my son are the two stud kids on the team, and we need I need another assistant. So I guess now we got 3, and those 3 children just dominate, and then they go all the way up until, you know, competitive soccer,
right,
and stuff like that. That's what, and so it just drove me nuts when the whole time of recreational soccer, because you would see this gamesmanship that people played to, and in college it's the same, you know, and so now we're in this whole deal with where they're paying the players, name, what is it, NIL, name, image, and likeness, you know, and so
and the transfer portal, that's a big
oh my
change.
Goodness, the transfer portal, I mean, that's just insane. I mean, they you know, and so the NIL, I mean, it's almost not fair, because Los Angeles, New York, Florida,
who's got the biggest market, right?
Chicago, you know, all the big cities. We've got all of these major TV and radio.
Yeah, which means Gonzaga, tough luck. Sucks to be you, right?
Toledo.
But I want to say something, and you know, you ended up coaching varsity at Union. And someone you and I both knew, Bill Blankenship, said this about the whole cheating recruiting thing. He says, when you reach a certain stature in your program, such as Union football had, he says, you have to fight really hard to keep out the people who will lie to get on your program, because they will take down your whole team for their own selfish gain. We saw that 20 years ago with Jinx. Some kid from a military school in Virginia comes out, and they just lie, and Jinx wins the state championship and then forfeits it because he played for him and he wasn't eligible. You know, and this is the kind of thing, if you run a decent program such as the OU softball net, I can imagine the kinds of things they have to do just to protect what they've worked so hard for.
And see, to me, I always said, why make those rules you're better off not having the rule, but just open that for everybody. So in other words, Jenks, you can get the kid from Virginia, but so can BA, so can Union, so can Owasso, so can Bixby. And in the end, it's still going to depend on your coach. And what it's going to do is make everybody else work that much harder to get your program.
Yeah.
And you're not, for example, Alabama ruled for how long? All those years, Alabama, who's been the national championship the last 2 years, who's been the runner-up the last couple of years. It wasn't Alabama, right? All of a sudden, Georgia. Yeah. And even Ohio State, you know, right behind them. Yeah. So it always turns around. USC is coming back. UCLA is coming back, right? Texas, like it or not, Oklahoma, Texas will be back.
Oh, yeah.
It's just bound to happen.
The sucky thing is we've been saying that for 20 years. They always find a way to choke.
Yeah.
Because they've got so much potential, Texas.
Yeah. Texas is like BA.
Yeah.
BA, I mean, I don't know how they
Broken Arrow.
As big as school. Maybe I think their problem is they have too many.
Exactly.
They have too many kids.
Oh, yeah.
If they broke them up into 2 high schools, then they could probably end up getting one of the two.
I agree. In fact, I talked to Heritage Hall back, this is 15 years ago, because I was coaching the homeschool team. I wasn't head coach or anything, but I was part of the program. And we had to play them. And this is when Barry Sanders Jr. was on their team and Sterling Shepard, you know, their high school years. Yeah. And 2 years earlier, they had won the 3A state championship with 49 guys on the roster. All of a sudden, the roster swelled to 77, and they lost that cohesion as a team. And then the next year, when we were playing them, they dropped it back down. 50 guys. That's it. You got to make one of those slots, and it just helped with that. Now, Broken Arrow, they would always suit up 100 guys. Union would suit up 110, Bill told me. Yeah. And most of those guys have no reasonable expectation ever playing varsity.
They just like being on the team and standing there.
It helps with the girls, right? But, you know, and this is the problem. And they recruited, got a Jinx assistant coach, David Alexander. You know, he's been a long time friend of mine. He finally gets them their first state football championship in 6A. And the next year they fire him with no reason.
Who's a BA?
Yeah. And so now they hired Josh Blankenship, who's kind of struggling over there, Bill's son. I'm sorry, we're getting off into wonkiness here.
Yeah, it shows you can inherit that kind of stuff, can you?
Yeah, and we were talking softball. This is it, folks. Starting this week is the College Women's Softball World Series.
I wonder if it could work out that OU and OSU could meet in the
yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of times, because I know in basketball, they always work it so that you can't have the championship be in the same conference. So I don't know if softball is the same.
Yeah, that's
in the playoffs. See, that's what I hate. If they're why can't you have 2 Big 12 teams end up in the championship? You know that, but I guess somebody. TV, I'm sure it's TV revenue. They don't want everybody. Only Oklahoma's watching or something, or Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, let's move on. Hey, by the way, Gandalf the White, he has returned as Gandalf the Black upon hearing about $1 million reparations payments.
Babylon alert.
Yeah, Babylon B. Alert. Rivendell.
Yes.
Gandalf the White has arrived with haste at the house of Elrond, suddenly referring to himself as Gandalf the Black. According to the iced-out wizard, now wearing a black robe, word on the street is that elves are paying out $1 million in reparations, and he is here to claim his bag. A wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to get that bread, homie, said Gandalf. Oh man, homie. Said Gandalf the Black, walking over and leaning on his pimp cane to greet Master Elrond. Now, where's all that paper cheddar I've been hearing about, Biggie? Where's all that paper cheddar I've been hearing about, Biggie? According to sources, Elrond made an uncomfortable and confused expression moments before Gandalf pulled him in for a complicated handshake that he had never done before. Gandalf, my friend, said Elrond, you cannot pass as black. These reparations are not intended for you. Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks, playa, replied Gandalf the Black. I pity the fool who tries to pass. Now fly and get me my money. I would love to see this played out. It would be great. Mm-hmm. This would be something that In Living Color would have done. At publishing time, Gandalf had been asked to leave Rivendell and once again trying to prove his authenticity by speaking the black speech of Mordor. Mordonics. It's Ebonics. He's speaking Mordonics. Oh, man. You gotta love the Babylon Bee. Boy, they can come up with some good stuff.
They do.
Ooh.
They do.
Ooh,
I tell you what, I read the headlines about all the marketing spoofs from Bud Light to Target. A bunch of, I think, God, am I reading Babylon Bee? You know, it's insane what's going on in the culture wars.
Staying on that theme, BLM paid their executives millions despite being $9 million in the red.
Yeah.
The tax documents showed.
This story is brought to you by Goya Maria Cookies, by the way.
And don't forget the Low T Centers of America, found in South Tulsa, actually, in almost Bixby. And if you get a chance, if you're a man over 30, you might want to check them out. There are a lot of benefits to Low T.
Oh, my goodness.
So
you know, Eddie,
Goya and Low T Centers. Don't
I'm going
forget.
to say.
You like these?
Yeah, they're good because they're not overly sugary.
No, you're right.
Maria Cookies.
I'm going to have another one.
But, yeah, I just want to say, you know, the things that keeping your levels correct, what it does for your energy, your productivity, Eddie, it more than pays for itself dozens of times over just in your energy. I mean, I'm self-employed, right? Home improvements contracting. The kind of hours I can put in when I've got the right kind of energy, balanced energy, not exhausted, not depressed, not, you know. So, folks, it's not always that you got to go see a shrink. Sometimes it's go check your levels at the Low T Center.
It's not the cannabis.
No. Yeah, I'm the biggest poser here. In my T-shirt, Veterans for Cannabis.
Yeah, no, I think it's something that has been so kind of a secret, almost kept, but just probably ignorance, lack of knowledge of testosterone for men, the need for estrogen for women was known earlier.
Oh, yeah.
For years that we've known that women lose their estrogen as they get older. It causes osteoporosis and many, many issues for women.
Mental health issues.
Right. And so it's the same with men losing testosterone.
Sure.
And it really helps you as we get older and everything, keep us going.
Under the proper supervision, and I got to say, you got to have professionals working for you on this.
Oh, they've helped me so much, even with my blood issues, with my clotting and pointing out different things, and just in general, very much helped.
Hey, growing old's not for cowards. You've got to face it with guts, bravery, and smarts.
Yeah. So anyway, this story here, BLM. For those of you that don't know, Black Lives Matter paid executives millions despite being $9 million in the red. the documents show that executives within the organization raked in millions, while the group overall ended the year $9 million in the red. The Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation ended the financial year with a deficit of $8.6 million in the red. A deficit, as what's his name used to say, the old congressman from Ohio, while still paying companies owned by the people close to the organization. They paid them millions, a number that represents a staggering decline from the $42 million it raked in last year after expenses. Mm-hmm. The New York Post reported all of this information last Wednesday. Tax documents posted online show the group raked in about $8.5 million, but spent roughly $17 million on expenses. A large chunk of the money was spent making payments. Get this. They spent it on companies owned by individuals close to the group, including 1.69, or let's just say 1.7 million for this group for management and consulting services paid to, owned by Shalomaya Bowers, who replaced and battled former leader Patrice Coolers amid financial scandals of her own. So basically, Miss Coolers was replaced because she bought all those mansions. You remember that?
Yeah.
So they got rid of her, or she stepped out, whether it was voluntary or not. So they replaced her with a new lady, Shalomaya Bowers, and this one now, she received $1.7 million.
Jeez.
Yeah. So there's your BLM. Oh, man.
I want to say something. You see this pattern happening here. You saw it happen with the, what was that cryptocurrency that Sam Bankman?
Fraud.
Yeah.
Sam Bankman fraud. Yeah.
That was nothing but a front for funding the far left. Mm-hmm. And you see what's the BLM thing was nothing but a fraud for, funding the far left. And I don't mean the black community. I mean avowed socialist causes,
right.
And massive wealth of the bourgeois leadership. Yeah. And folks, they're taking the common man's money by fraud, whether it's your sympathy for George Floyd or for your attempt to get in the ground floor of cryptocurrency.
I'll be honest with you, though. I really don't have any vitriol against these women. And here's why. Because they were schooled by the likes of Jesse Jackson, Reverend Al Sharpton, and many others. This is nothing new. And what makes me mad, honestly, $1 million to this one lady, or whatever Patrice Coolers got, and the other ladies, it's chump change. Chump change compared to the Jackson family, to Al Sharpton and his NAN, National Action Network, and these other organizations.
Rainbow Push and all those. Yeah.
These people have been raking in millions annually, and for decades.
Yeah.
And it's been getting away with it.
Okay, so
their problem is, I think they were a little too. Well, I'll tell you what the problem may be. Maybe they were taking too much money from the others. It might be an inside job. Yeah. It could be Sharpton and some of them.
That's a good point.
Pointing their finger, say we can't be having this.
Yeah. So here's the way it was explained to me about how Jesse Jackson's organization did. They would go to corporate America and threaten a boycott, a protest, an outrage by the black community, accusing all these executives of racism. and discrimination stuff, unless they donated to Jesse's favorite charity,
Right.
which is his back pocket,
right.
just laundered a few steps. And this is what I see happening more and more, is that corporate America is falling for these things. Because the real big money doesn't come from grandma. It comes from the corporate executives.
Right.
You know, and ultimately the stocks, I mean, most people's pension funds are heavily invested in these stocks and insurance companies and stuff like that. It's all going to trickle down and hurt us. But the problem is because you've got corporate executives that are just so steeped in white guilt, they fall for it.
Well, see, this is the other thing. Yeah, that's the old way of doing it. What's happened over the last 30, 40 years since this began, what you're talking about, what's happened, they began initially threatening with, we're going to boycott you unless you donate here. But the other side of that was, you've got to change your hiring practices. You've got to hire a certain number of these people. And we just happen to have a list of the people you need to hire.
Yeah, there you go.
So now we've got certain people coming out of select colleges, schools, universities, in certain areas that are taking these positions in human resources, in advertising, in this and this and this and this, with their degree is probably in African American studies, women's studies, etc. These kind of things, and these people are now the ones that are in a position to hold their own companies hostage and tell their corporate directors, "This is what you need to do." This is how you end up with a stupid decision like Bud Light made to have Dylan, whatever his name is,
Pretty boy.
yeah, to be on the can of Bud Light, and now Target in their situation that they're in. This is how you end up with this type of thing happening. So initially it was blackmail by giving us money, but the better thing is now to directly infiltrate these companies. Then you can keep getting money, because what do these people do then? They're the ones who give the money continually in the future.
Yeah.
Another thing, somebody I will never give money, have never and will never give money to, the United Way.
Yes.
See, United Way is just steeped in left-leaning organizations who they give the money to. And every year, the United Way's fund drive. And if you look at who's giving all the money here in town, even in Tulsa, it's a long road.
Yeah, the big corporations, and if you work for those corporations, the immense pressure you're under, because they award them for reaching a certain percentage of their pay of their employee that are giving.
Right.
So yeah.
And then where's that money going? Who is really watching where that money is going? And so much of it always goes, Planned Parenthood.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This and this, and all of these different liberal organizations.
Yep.
Millions, billions if you go nationally. If you look at a national situation. So like I said, because of these things, this is wrong, okay? What BLM has done is wrong, and it's just an example. I mean, this is a barefaced, in-your-face example of being taken advantage of, people being suckered, okay? But I don't begrudge these ladies for getting what they can to show America how stupid they have been.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, am I making sense?
Yeah.
In other words, if you're going to do this, give us money. If you're giving money to all these other charlatans out there, hucksters, and Booker T used to say, Booker T. Washington, race pimps. If you're going to give all your money to these people, then give me some. That's what BLM's saying. Yeah. Give me some.
See, here's what I have a problem with, though. My daughter and son-in-law went to a Black Lives Matter rally that the Tulsa police actually helped organize. They handled all the parking for. It was well managed. It was orderly for a while. When they were done, then a bunch of hotheads just kind of corralled everybody and says, hey, let's go shut down the highway. And then, accidents happen. People get arrested. All kinds of bad things happen. But because of that turnout, that gets translated into, you see, Mr. Corporate CEO, the people are behind us. And so you get used. And by women like these who are raking in the money because my daughter and son-in-law went to a rally.
Right. Did they learn something from that rally? Will they go to another one?
They're glad they left when they did, because again, it was those who hung out afterwards and became the opportunist for their own. Because storefronts were busted. What is their opinion now of BLM? Well, the idea of being anti-discrimination and that, believe in that. As far as what they believe about this particular organization, I haven't heard them talk about it.
See, that's the problem. That's the problem that your kids, I'll just say, are exemplary of so many of America's young youth, the next generation or so, that they think they're doing something good, but what they're really doing is supporting something bad.
I know.
And they don't see it, that they can't see that the whole in other, what is it, the fruit of a poison tree? Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Yeah, you can't get good fruit from a poison tree.
Right.
So if the tree is poison, I don't care how good the fruit looks, it's always going to be poison. And the whole fruit and the whole tree, the root that grows the tree of Black Lives Matter is poison.
Okay, so Eddie, here's my challenge.
Please. This is the kind of stuff we live for.
I'm about to turn 62.
Okay, young
You're
man.
beyond
young
me.
man.
Well, yeah. How do you get your kids to listen and pay attention? They don't realize they're being exploited because they feel good when they do these things.
Yeah, you just have to confront them and tell them, look, you need to grow up. No, seriously, this is not the real world. Mm-hmm. You need to broaden your horizons and actually study the real history, not the crap that you're being fed. Where are you getting this stuff? Who are you listening to? What are you watching? Usually,
yeah.
You start by finding out what are they watching on the news, and in reading. So they're probably most of them are watching either MSNBC or NPR. Okay. Yeah. They're too good to watch ABC, CBS, or they don't watch that. Okay. They definitely wouldn't be caught dead watching Fox News because Fox News is right wing.
That's Grandpa's channel.
Right. And they've heard there's nothing but a bunch of redneck, racist, and for some reason they feel real intellectual, like if they watch NPR.
Yeah.
So everybody wants to watch NPR, even though NPR is the stupidest network ever. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So NPR, MSNBC, then you read the Daily Beast. They have their little network of online. We have ours. I mean, I'll be honest, we have ours,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
That we read daily. What is it? The Daily Caller. A Glenn Beck's thing, or this and this and this. We have our own little.
Sure.
I won't give them all away so that we can get the news ahead of you.
Yeah, we don't want the bandwidth to crash on our websites.
Yeah,
right?
But I make sure I read the other side stuff.
Yeah.
As much as I read ours.
Yeah.
So that I see what the other side is thinking, and then I try to think through how in the world can they think this stuff? Because if you go back and I researched what they said, but see, the young people today, they don't have time. They don't take time to research. It's for some reason, somewhere back there, they have been taught to mistrust everything that counters what they're hearing on their sources.
Yeah, but here's what I've seen liberals do, and they've had to learn some lessons the hard way. They became the champions of women's rights until Beverly LaHaye started and Phyllis Schlafly started women's organizations that's, no, you don't speak for us, Gloria, and all these. And all of a sudden, they get embarrassed when the people they claim to be championing the cause of refutes them. How the leftists all wanted to talk about how terrible it was what we were doing in Nicaragua in the 80s until the people were finally given a chance to vote and voted the communists out. And so now these same bunch who manipulate our emotions, our guilt in that, have moved to things like animal rights because the animals can't refute them, or climate change because...
Well, the climate is refuting it.
Yeah, I know. We can't talk about that, And because this is what's really going on.
Yeah.
Is they're lying and using their lies as weapons to make us feel guilty for doing the wrong thing, and then to congratulate us for doing what they wanted.
Yeah.
They give us a good feeling if we give to what
I think it goes back to the sin of Adam, and the core sin is just rebellion. Did God really say? And beyond did God really say, I really don't care what God says, you're not the boss of me. And I think really you're not the boss of me is the true byword or the code word for the whole, all generations. You're not the boss of me.
It's rebellion then.
Yeah, it is rebellion. And so it's not enough to just, you can't accept what mom and dad said.
Right.
I've got to chart my own path. I've got to, the prodigal son that went away until he was eating what the hogs were eating, And we can only pray that they see the truth before it destroys them.
Can I tell you what Will Rogers said? Said some learn by reading, others learn by observing, and some just got to pee on the electric fence for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
you hate to see your kids learn the hard way, right? Yeah. You hate to learn the hard way yourself. I mean, let's face it, we all have this struggle.
Yeah, it was God's mercy that woke me up at a critical time in my life. He mercifully spared my life several times from death and from prison until I finally realized that, hey, you got to get it together.
Yeah.
And in an instant, boom, everything changed. And so, but that's what's going on with these young people. And we can't give up. We can't just yield to them. That's what I'm saying. We have to continue to fight. We have to continue to fight. And, a lot of times we as parents don't want to, it's so funny in my family. my prodigal, I have a prodigal. Okay. And more times than not, he leaves my house or I leave his house with us having had a fight.
Yeah.
Not, but yelling, arguing, over something. But he is the same one when my wife's out of town who calls, how are you doing?
Yeah.
Is everything okay? Do you need anything? Always checking up on me. Yeah, are you okay? And it's because he understands the things that we went through when he was younger.
Yeah.
That we saw through where, until he got his, and I'm proud of him. I mean, he's done great, but we're still going to fight like you and I do sometimes, argue here, not on the same level.
Yeah.
But I, in other words, so just because, we're at a different time or different thing doesn't mean I'm going to quit arguing with the guy.
Yeah.
When I think I'm right and he's wrong, I'm going to keep arguing because that's just what I do. But so what I'm trying to tell you, not just Dave, but to tell you, don't give up the fight. If you know your children, and if you're right and you're not.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you should know. If you don't, then I'm sorry, I can't help you. But you should know what's right and what's not, and you got to continue to fight to share with them and your friends. This is the problem what I see with the Republican Party too much, even state, which we'll get into in a little bit. You've got to continue that fight to the end.
Yeah.
You love them to death, but yet you can't just say, well, I'm going to do the loving thing, and I'm just not going to counter that and let them go their way. And that's the worst thing you could do.
I'd like to add my insights on that. My middle son, Charlie, ever since he was little, it was sport for him. When Dad said no, that was the beginning of the challenge. How does he turn Dad's no into a yes? Whereas his older brother just accepted no and just went on with it. And Charlie, all of a sudden now, he's in high school, and he's challenging everything I say. And, man, we just have these big debates. And Charlie left, had to go to work or something, and his older brother says to me, he says, Dad, he will argue with you on every point, and then he'll go and do exactly what you advised him to do. And today, Charlie probably mirrors my convictions and my life perspective more than anyone. And he was the one that challenged it. But here's what Proverbs says. Young man, in all you're getting, get wisdom, get understanding. I had to explain that to my dad one time as a teenager and as a young Christian. I said, he said, hey, don't argue with me. Just do what I said, And I said, Dad, I've been reading in Proverbs where Solomon says, young man, in all you're in all you're getting, get wisdom. I said, if I don't ask you why, then I'm being deprived of the wisdom I need because you told me no for a reason. And he said, all right, fair point. He said, when you asked me why in the past, I took it as rebellion because that's where it was coming from. Now you just want understanding. He says, do not exploit this, but now I will be more patient with your why. And it was great. It was, and that's where we got to get with our kids.
Yeah, no, we do. And not just our kids. It's the same with neighbors, friends.
Yes.
You can't be afraid to confront your friends or fight back.
Yeah.
When your friends, neighbors, depending on the relationship. I mean, when you have a close relationship, you don't just go out and fight people to fight, but when you have a real close, this fraternity brother of mine, okay, I'll be here, we'll call, and he'll be very cordial, and we're like brothers. I mean, it's weird. I'm an only child. He has sisters, but he's the only boy in the family. But and he is ultra liberal. I mean, we're talking liberal, black liberal. And he'll come. We'll have a cordial, hey frat, and hey, and so at some point in the conversation, we get set off.
Oh yeah.
And right in my office over here, we're just yelling. I'm just yelling at I'm afraid the people down the hall are here. And if I don't have. If it was the old type phones, slamming the phone. But it's a cell phone, so if I did, I'd break. So you can't do that, And I don't want to give them the satisfaction of me hanging up, But once it's over, and then we'll be back at it in a couple of days.
Yeah,
just start again.
Okay,
he'll send me some stupid thing. Attack on Trump that he finds in the Daily Beast or something, and then I'll send him something from Newsmax or something, and we're just, and so I told this other fraternity brother of ours in Dallas, I said, oh man, I said, you should have heard me and Bleep the other day, we just really got into it. He says, yeah, so what? That's what you do.
Yeah.
And then he said, that's what you guys do.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that when we get together, and his sister and I are real good friends. I was talking to her, she said, yeah, you're my brother. It's actually like we're true brothers. Mm-hmm. We will just go at it like crazy, but at the same time, if I need something, he's there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing that there's this deep bond and love with each other.
Yeah, it's a respect.
Yeah, but man, when we get political, he just loves Biden and Obama, and
I want to say something. This is coming from a dear friend, mentor, longtime friend, Jay, whose kids started, leaving the house, getting married, finishing college, and one of his kids who's married. And about a year later, 2 years, he's over talking to him, and his son says, Dad, the problem with you is you give your opinion way too much. And Jay says to me, he says, Dave, I only say about 10% of what I want to say. And there's something there. You remember what Jesus said, don't cast your pearls before swine, If your wisdom is something that truly you feel is a gift from God, you don't give it to people who aren't receptive of it. So that's part of my thing too. I have to balance it with is if they don't want to hear, then I've got to, not just out of respect for their wishes, but out of respect to myself.
Yeah.
Don't push yourself where you're not wanted.
Yeah, don't waste your time.
So anyway, Now the cool thing is, my daughter's really coming around to all of a sudden opening up on things. And by the way, I'm invited over to her house to referee a women's backyard croquet match because I am the family champion, undisputed reigning
croquet.
Backyard croquet.
Oh my goodness!
You've never played croquet till you play Ben Rissick.
Are you serving tea and crumpets with your croquet?
I don't know what she's doing. She's got a girl group over, and she just says, "Dad, can you show up just in case there's any questions on the rules?" So I'm going to referee the thing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, let's move on.
Yeah, serious issues.
Ron DeSantis made it official.
Yeah.
This past Wednesday, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
In as undramatic of a way.
Well, I know. He officially announced his run for president in the 2024 election there, even though he has been unofficially running for 6-7 months. It's been a long time, so it's no surprise. But he faces a real uphill battle against DJT, I like to call him, Donald J. Trump.
Yep.
Ahead, and I, among many, do not support him in any way. And I made a list of why I don't support him. Would you like to hear? Would you like to hear?
Yeah.
My reasons. Okay. Number one, the big one is the loyalty factor. I value loyalty. If you think back when I was with Pat Campbell.
Yeah.
Okay. And even you and I in the last, has it been 2 years? Mm-hmm. Wow. 2 years, man.
Yeah.
But anyway, even back to as most people that used to listen to the Pat Campbell show and have watched us here or listened to us here, we often did not agree.
Yeah.
On various topics, but we always remained loyal to one another.
Yeah.
And if you think back to The Apprentice, what did Donald value and hate the most? It was letting the team down.
Yeah.
When you were the team leader or the person on the team that let the team down, and disloyalty to the team, it just drove him nuts. And so what's been the biggest problem with the Trump presidency? And even since then, and it's been the problem with the entire GOP and, honestly, our nation. It's been disloyalty and backstabbers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I think
the tell-all books from my time in the White House.
Oh, my goodness. All these women and guys and even what's his name? The vice president. Pence. It's funny, but I talked about this before. Shakespeare in the Park. Mm-hmm. We had this, what was it? Well, when Donald Trump got elected to presidency, they did, every year they have a play in Central Park. In New York City. They do Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. And this year they did Julius Caesar. No, this was the first year after he got elected, 17. And so, and what they did Julius Caesar, but they were all dressed in suits, white suits, and Trump was the main guy. He was Julius Caesar, but it was Trump. And then, of course, they all killed him. And I thought about it. I said, man, I wonder if this is almost not prophetic and going forward. And so I think, and I thought, I wonder who Brutus is going to be, et tu, Brute. And so I think it was Pence.
I think there's any number of them that
but I mean, overall, it would have to be Pence would be the final straw. You too, Mike. Mm-hmm. The whole, I picture you as vice president. We went through all of this together, and now you come on in the end and kind of stab me as well. But anyway, but DeSantis, if you remember, when he was running for governor in 2018, Ron DeSantis was running for governor. And he was down, I think it was 11 points or something. He wasn't that tight.
I think he was only at 5 points in the poll. It's what I heard this morning anyway in Newsmax.
He was only at 5 points?
In the polls, yeah. He was way... For governor.
Right. But as I remember, like a week or so out, he was still 11 points down or something.
Okay, yeah.
He was losing. Let's just put it that way. And against Kwame, I can't remember his last name.
Okay, I was referring to in the primary.
Oh, okay. No, this was in the actual gubernatorial, the general election. The general election. And so he called on Donald Trump, and Trump came in on his behalf and supported him, made a speech, commercial, and he jumped to the lead and ended up becoming governor. And he was all there with Trump, and he's on my, And so it's indisputable that Donald Trump basically helped him get elected to governor of the state of Florida. Yeah. And so now, all of a sudden, he's governor, and now he's going to go and try to take out him as president of the United States after 1.5 terms. It kind of reminds me of Obama, even though Obama only did a half a term in the Senate. But, that short period of time. Ron, I'd say it's a job unfinished there in Florida. You still got some work to do in Florida. You have not totally, they're coming after you in Florida. I think you need to finish what's going on there. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's number one, the loyalty factor. Number two, Trump has supported in the grassroots, the people support Donald Trump overwhelmingly. He's up a 40-point lead right now. It's not just Republicans, it's Democrats that like Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it's the common man and woman like DeSantis has a millionaires and billionaire donors right now. He's got big guys that want to get him, and never Trumpers. That's who he's got right now. He does not have the grassroots people.
You're right. And to hear Newsmax talk about it, it's very much the Bush team that is propelling DeSantis, and as well as Karl Rove himself.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's, I have a problem with that. Here's where I'm at.
Well, I've still got 2 more points.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm not done.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just getting started.
Okay. Boy, I tell you, I got a bunch of things to respond to.
DeSantis is essentially just another career politician. He served in the Navy. So tell me what other job he's had since he got out. And ever since he's been running, he reminds me of John Kerry. He was in Congress, in the House, and since then he went straight into he became governor. So he's been a politician basically, and now he wants to be president right away. He hadn't even been in there long. I mean, I don't think I hate to use the word that he's unfit for duty, which is kind of reminds me even more of John Kerry. Remember his book Fit for Duty, but I think he's unfit, or was it Unfit for Duty? John Kerry. Anyway, but so he's been another career politician. He hasn't. If you look at Donald Trump, the majority of his life was in private life. It's private life, building, and not just private life. In New York City, he built his business in New York City, which is not easy. Now, you may not like his business, but to succeed in New York City, you got to play hardball. My final thing is, tell me what policy of Ron DeSantis you support and like. What specific policy is it that you like? And to follow up with that, tell me of those policies that DeSantis supports and wants to promote, which one of those differs from what Donald Trump has already begun? I mean, there's really no difference in the policies that they want to enforce. He wants to build the wall again. He wants to. The only difference is he's not using the slogan "Make America Great Again."
Yeah.
But other than that, essentially, he wants to carry on the Donald Trump legacy. So here's the real deal. Okay, the real truth about everything is that Ron DeSantis is wanting to be president. Okay, somebody. And I have a feeling, this is my gut feeling. My gut feeling, he's got a very ambitious wife. She was Miss Florida. She's probably a sorority girl that everybody told her she was pretty somewhere in her life, and that she's something else, and she wants to be married. She wants to be first lady. And she's telling Ron that, Ron, yes, you're the man. And all of her friends, all of his friends are telling him now is the time. And I don't think it's his time. I think he's being a fool. I think he's being foolish by doing this. I think his real play would have been to be loyal to Donald Trump, wait 4 years. That way, win or lose, if Trump wins or loses, he's waiting in the wings. That to me would be the smart play. But what he's going to do now, I think he's going to make a lot of enemies, because if he should beat Donald Trump in the primaries, which I don't think he will, I think the ever-Trumpers, not the never, the ever-Trumpers, I think they're going to sit it out.
And that's the worst possible
And that's
outcome.
the worst possible outcome.
I've got a lot to respond to there.
All right.
Okay? Let's go in reverse order.
All right.
About the wife thing. As the joke goes, Hillary and Bill were campaigning in the spring of '92 in Chicago. And they're just sidewalk, greeting people. And all of a sudden, a baker comes running out of a storefront bakery. Hillary, remember me, Tom? We went to the prom. Oh, Tom, she says, yeah. Bill, I want you to meet Tom, like we went to high school together and everything. And they just real quick and back on their campaigning down the street. And Bill says, Hillary, if you'd stayed with him, you'd be a baker's wife. She says, no, if I married him, he'd be running for president. Because Hillary was bound determined to get into the White House by hitching. Whoever the man was she had to attach to get there, right? So about policy, let's just look at both of them. I think Donald Trump blazed the trail on telling the media and even the woke corporate world to go to hell and not being afraid of it. Unlike most Republicans who grovel for acceptance from the media. That has been a problem. I think Donald Trump deserves the credit for blazing a new trail on disposition. I think Ron DeSantis is disciple number one on actually putting that to work. DeSantis deserves a lot of credit for that, and Donald Trump even more credit for being the first. So I'm highly respectful of both of those guys in that. As far as, career thing, when Jimmy Carter ran for president, he was an outsider, right? He was peanut farmer from Plains, right? Now, he had been governor, and that. But when he picked a running mate, he picked the ultimate insider, Walter Mondale, the senior senator, liberal in that. You need both. Donald Trump's made a lot of mistakes out of just naivety. When he said that Washington's a swamp, he didn't realize just how big it was and the implications of the swamp coming after you. All right, so Trump will, in all honesty, if he doesn't admit that he's made some naive mistakes, that's to his detriment and make me more disappointed with him. DeSantis, has he made mistakes? I don't know. I think I've seen him be more victorious than defeated and thwarted like Trump was, So about the career thing, I agree with you. Taking somebody who at least has some private sector experience in that, I think makes a more well-rounded person. But that's not to say that your elective office experience doesn't also. So I think you need a team that has both. You know what I'm saying? So, and then to your second point, who owns them? I like to think nobody but the common man owns them. And the candidate. The fact that you had mentioned about, the big money, the Bush people and everything, who really controls them? Because a smart politician will raise an army of 5 million to institute the policies of 500.
Right, but I think that, I'm sorry. Okay. But I think that that's what I was trying to say, that I think DeSantis is setting himself up to be owned by.
I agree. That's a real issue.
So you're saying we're agreed on that point?
Yes.
Okay.
I was very concerned about Trump being a New York businessman, about ethics, about organized crime, because they're all having to fight over the same Manhattan Island. What I have learned, and probably to the dismay of the Democrats, were shocked when they were wiretapping, his phones during the 2016 campaign, how clean an operation. I mean, the FBI has come up with nothing. How many of us live by the standards Donald Trump has. I mean, the guy's, a cloistered nun.
If Stormy Daniels is the best they can do in the city and situation that he was living in.
Yeah, Trump's vice was women.
Women.
Okay? Now, that was much earlier in life. Maybe he needs to go to low T center. I don't know. But he obviously had a lot of testosterone.
Stay away from the low T center. Yeah.
Well, keep it in balance, folks. But anyway, but here's where I'm getting at to your first point about loyalty. The fella introduced me to Jeb Bush, my former state senator, Don Rubottom. Explained one time we were working Larchen's campaign. He said, Dave, every politician has a big ego. They wouldn't get in the race if they didn't think they could do it better than the guy who's in office now. And I mean, that's going to be true of Donald Trump. That's going to be true of Kevin Stitt. That's going to be true of DeSantis. All of them. They are driven by big egos. Mm-hmm. There's no way you can get me to go through the hell they go through running for office. It's just, no, I won't do it. I'm not driven by that big of an ego, and I don't have a wife with an even bigger ego. So I get what you're saying about loyalty, but ultimately I think that's between those two guys. When it comes to me, I'm hoping they want to work for me, is I want to be able to look beyond that and look at objectively. Because they all got strengths. I mean, DeSantis he's in the top 1% of politicians.
Well, here's why it's unfair. Okay. DeSantis lives in Florida. Mm-hmm. Florida is different from the rest of the United States. DeSantis doesn't have to deal with New York, doesn't have to deal with California, doesn't have to deal with Illinois and Arizona, Utah, you name them, okay? So just because he's been successful in Florida doesn't mean that's going to automatically translate into a national situation.
I got to look at that 180 degrees from you.
Okay.
When DeSantis won, it was by 1%, maybe even less. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was a purple state and had been for several cycles. DeSantis has turned that state into solid red conservative in 5 years, 4 years.
But how did he do it? That was my whole point.
By the Trump persona of go to hell, this is what we're going to do. And COVID helped him.
Yes. It wasn't just the Trump persona.
Okay.
It was Trump policies.
Well, yeah, right.
Okay. It was more than just the persona.
Well,
It was following the Trump model. Yes.
I agree.
And so that's what I'm trying to say. It's not like DeSantis invented the wheel. It was like DeSantis used the wheel that Trump had invented. And so it's like all of a sudden Alexander Graham Bell invents the telephone, but then I use the telephone to do something with, and I just kicked Alexander Graham Bell out of the picture like he never existed.
I get that.
That's what I'm trying to get to.
But I'm saying on the COVID thing, there's never an issue in my mind where Trump was less effective in managing his own White House, his own administration. He got used, he got played, he got manipulated, and DeSantis refused to bow to the federal pressure.
No, DeSantis initially, and I can't remember exactly, I'm going to have to look it up because somebody posted it and reminded us, and I can't remember. He actually did the opposite. He actually banned it. Oh my goodness, what did he do? He actually went against it initially.
Against what?
The COVID. He did a lockdown or something. Initially, he did. He didn't follow.
He followed. Well, that 14 days to something the curve.
Yeah, there was something he did. I don't know whether
everybody followed the Trump plan for those first 2 weeks. The 2 weeks turned into 6 weeks.
Right, but no, there was something else. I'm sorry. I apologize. We're because I can't remember. I'll look it up. I'll send it to you, and then we'll be.
Yeah.
But there was something DeSantis did that was just as negative on. It was more following the later model than the initial. Because see, here's the problem. Let's just set that aside for a minute. Okay. Okay. You're the president of the United States. Okay. You're faced with an emergency coming at you. Okay. You're getting advice from the so-called experts.
Right.
Okay. This is all the experts you got. Okay. What do? You listen to the experts. But what Trump did, he did not mandate anything. He said, if you want to use ivermectin, use ivermectin, right? If you want to use hydroxychloroquine, use hydroxychloroquine. If you want to use these new drugs and vaccines that we're working at warp speed to try to create, do that. And in fact, it was funny because he had these pharmacies working to come up with these, and what was happening on the other side, you had our vice president, our current vice president, saying she refused to take it because it was Trump's idea to take it. As soon as she became vice president, she was urging everyone to take it.
Yeah,
the same thing that she refused. So what I'm saying is it's unfair for, this is another thing that ticks me off with people, to try to turn it around on Trump to say, you know, he made people take a vaccine. He never made anybody take anything. He just tried to come up with a vaccine at a rapid pace, but he never forced anybody to take anything, and he left the door open that if you wanted to take ivermectin, if you wanted to take hydroxychloroquine, you can do it.
No, I get that.
That's what I'm saying. So to me, that's an unfair argument.
No,
but there was something that DeSantis did that was the other way around.
Okay.
He actually went the other way, and I cannot remember.
Here's
deal
my
with that
problem. It wasn't the things that Trump was pushing.
Right.
It was the control of just how, like Deborah Birx this week came out in her book deal. She's talking about how she would go around White House policy. They'd all meet and say, here's what we're going to do. And then she would go around afterwards and get what she wanted done. It's insubordination. She should have been fired. This is the problem that Trump had within his own White House.
Exactly.
Is people disloyal to him.
That's what we talked about right at the beginning.
Yes.
That everybody is stabbing this guy. I mean, right.
And so this is a problem. I mean, I want Donald Trump for another term, but I want a Trump that's a lot smarter and a lot more circumspect about what's going on.
Well, the one thing I promise you, you won't see the same thing that you saw last time this time, because he knows now. See, you got a guy that came from the streets. He didn't come from government.
Yeah.
So he didn't know how this stuff worked.
Right.
He didn't know, he was advised. I guarantee you he was advised, you need to hire this person, you need to keep this person, because they're the professionals. They've been into this. They're trustworthy. They're da-da-da-da. And then he finds out, they're lying, stinking rascals is all they are, backstabbers.
Right.
I guarantee you this time he comes in, he's cleaning house, and he's bringing his own people in that he knows and that have earned his trust.
Right.
And he will never do that again. So it's going to be a different deal. I guarantee you DeSantis, if he comes in, he would do the same thing.
Right.
That he would know. Now, my only fear is, here's my fear on that. Because of the corporate money that he's got putting him in, that he will be beholding to these people.
Yeah.
And then he will have to dance to their tune, and he will have to put in people that will hold him basically accountable to those interests. That's the difference. See, and I think the problem with Trump was that he didn't owe anybody anything, and therefore you had outside interests that manipulated these other people, and they said, "Oh, he's not playing our game. Let's get him."
I get that. It's, you know, Dick Armey once time I was in a meeting with him, he said, when you get to Washington, you better know who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for, or you're going to be owned before the sun sets. And except for those people who were already owned before they got to Washington. And because it is a problem. And it is a swamp. It's a lot bigger swamp than Trump even comprehended.
Totally.
And we just need, I would agree with you. I think I just have to believe Trump is not going to fall for the same stuff next time.
No. And the other thing about it is this. This time he only has 4 years.
That's true.
So he knows he only has 4 years. So he's not worried about running for re-election.
Right.
He's not worried about pleasing anybody. He wants to go in. He's going to get that wall done. He's going to get this done. He's got to work on getting rid of the people. I want to do one other thing. I do want to say this. DeSantis has to worry about his own home front. There's another candidate that I think might give Ron a run for it. And Ron, I don't think he is even aware. It's the mayor of Miami.
Really?
Mayor of Miami is a Cuban. I mean, a real Cuban. Good-looking, young guy, vigorous. And the guy, he's very modern, future-looking. He's a Republican, conservative, and smart as a whip. And that's a guy everybody needs to keep an eye on.
Okay.
And if Donald is smart, he'll know how to work this guy.
I think that is brilliant.
And that guy, see what he can do. See, he can work with Trump and then look at 4 years beyond this election and set himself up.
You know, I've watched in certain states the Republican Party absolutely capitulate and just fall apart. Colorado is a perfect example. Used to be a very conservative state. But in Florida, what we've witnessed in 4 years is amazing at how much the Republican Party has just taken over that state. Not just in name, but in policies, in ideology. It is fantastic.
But see, you were talking earlier about DeSantis and you know, the victory he won and all, but Florida's become the new Texas, and more Texas even than Texas.
I think so.
For example, this Miami right now, it's the safest city in America.
It's amazing.
The crime is the lowest. When they were taking us, I was, what? The crime is so low in Miami, it's unbelievable.
But it used to be such a leftist liberal city.
Well,
and now, and I watched in 2020 the Trump armadas that would go on the boat parades in it was Hispanics. In fact, we had new pop songs, top of the charts. I will vote for Trump. You know, and it was just amazing stuff going. And that's part of winning the culture, Eddie. That's really what we've got to do. And I'm saying Florida's a success story. Now, does DeSantis deserve all the credit? No.
Well, here's the other thing about it, okay? DeSantis, for example, out of the state reps or the Congress people, not the state reps, the U.S. Congress representatives in Florida, 13 of them, they'll support Trump. And so if you've got 13 representatives from the state of Florida, that tells you that Florida is pretty much, the whole state is turned red anyway, right? And so what that tells me, so what I'm basically saying is that I don't think it's necessarily all a DeSantis thing.
Moving the White House to Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah,
that's a big thing because Mar-a-Lago is now one of the biggest tourist locations.
Yeah.
So
hey, I've got one more thing here. Thousands of outraged Christians. Now this is how these articles. This is going to get you. Okay.
This is a leftist article.
This is a twisted. Yeah. Thousands of outraged Christians condemn the unholy Ron DeSantis. Okay. So you think, wow, Christians are upset with Ron DeSantis. See, I'm almost thinking that this is a pro DeSantis thing, and you'll get to why. Thousands of Christians signed an online petition condemning Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and his presidential campaign, accusing him of twisting religion for political gain. DeSantis.
It's got to be the first time that ever happened.
DeSantis, long viewed as a Republican with the greatest chance of beating former President Donald Trump in the GOP's 2024 primary, made his campaign official Wednesday, announcing that he'll seek the presidency. As governor of the traditional swing state, Florida, DeSantis embraced right-wing culture war issues, including opposition to LGBTQ plus rights, and passing one of the country's most stringent bans on abortion to build his national profile and support among Republican Party's conservative base, which is largely comprised of Christians. However, not all Christians are on board with DeSantis' campaign. The organization Faithful America, a Christian group that has warned against the growth of Christian nationalism within the United States, released a petition condemning Ron DeSantis' campaign Wednesday. So when you read that, when you first see the title, thousands of outraged Christians condemn the unholy DeSantis, you think so evangelicals are upset.
Not evangelicals,
no, it's the other guy.
This is probably some Unitarian Universalists.
Probably. Well, and get this. Here, you'll love it. It goes further. The petition describes the governor as a proud far-right Catholic extremist who frequently invokes God on the campaign trail and is already trying to cloak himself in religious support, bragging about a recent meeting with homophobic evangelist Franklin Graham.
Yeah. Okay, so Eddie, I got to rewind us to about this time last year. We had this discussion about DeSantis, and the reason why some people were looking for somebody other than Trump is they could not stand the way Trump was being attacked and the way Trump was responding to the attacks. They wanted a kinder, gentler, and they just thought if we just do that and play nice, everybody will get along. And you and I both said, if you think for 1 minute they're not going to come after DeSantis, you're nuts.
Right.
Hello? We were right.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter who. Fact is, Rush Limbaugh told a story a few months before he died, actually. He went back to as soon as in 2008, Michelle Palin was announced as running mate for
Sarah Palin.
Sarah Palin, yeah. I'm sorry. Sarah Palin. By John McCain. And a couple of businessmen flew down there to Florida, wanted to go golfing with Rush. They were really trying hard to. I'm like, okay, and he finally relents, does it. They were putting the first green, and he just says, we got to find a way to get Palin off the ticket. They're just it's just horrible what they're doing. And he just sat and listened. They went over to tee off second round, and they're about to get in the golf carts. And they went on all their reasons why Palin just has to be replaced. And he said, so what you're saying to me is you want to let the leftist media pick our running mate.
Right.
And they, no. Yeah, that's essentially what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because you want somebody that they won't attack. That's letting them pick. And, in fact, Rush tells a story about right after he got elected. He wasn't even a month into office, actually. And Rush is golfing down Florida with President Trump. And some of Trump's people are there, and Trump is saying, as soon as this and this happens, he says, I think that's going to turn, and the media will be on board, and I think things a bit better. And Bannon was there, Reince Priebus, because they were both kind of the two chief of staff, right? And Rush said, he says, if you think for 1 minute the media is ever going to let up on you, you're disillusioned. And Rush went on and on. It will be this way, and it will never stop. And until either you cry uncle or your term is over, they are going to be relentless. And he said, Trump just looked at him shocked, like, it's like, oh my God. Because Trump is going to listen to what Limbaugh says.
Oh, yeah.
And Limbaugh on the radio, he said, he says, I looked at, he's referring to Bannon and Priebus. They're kind of smiling like, thank God Rush is saying something, because he doesn't want to believe it when we tell him.
Yeah.
But this is it, folks. We're at war.
Yeah. And it's like, the reality is you got all of these people that want a nice Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They think that, a scandal-free Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
They want somebody, how to put it, someone they can be proud of. Mm-hmm. And you look at Ron DeSantis, he's a military veteran. He was honorably discharged. He served in the Navy. He did this. He's got a pretty wife. He has these lovely young children. Mm-hmm. He's the picture of the 1950s and 60s presidential candidate we used to have. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sorry, people. Those days are gone. Mm-hmm. It's down and dirty today.
Yeah.
Okay? It's down and dirty. And I guarantee you, by the time, if he were to be selected and win the primary, by the time you get there, he's not going to be the Ron DeSantis that you think you see today.
Yeah.
They will find, I guarantee there will be no less than about 10 women popping up that either had a baby by him or an abortion by him because of him, or this, or they were sexually harassed by him. His wife will have some issues. I mean, all kinds of stuff will come up as we get down the road. That's just how they play dirty. I was telling somebody this story just this week about when I was a kid in Philadelphia. I don't know if I told this about a fair one. Did I ever tell this story?
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay, when you fight in the city, okay. And I didn't realize this when I first came. Oh,
yeah, you had to ask for a fair fight. You told that
ask for a fair one, yeah.
Otherwise, they get to gang up or one tag team, one after the other.
Exactly. There's somebody that can beat you come in and beat you.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't call for a fair one.
Yeah.
And, I mean, basically you could do the same but I didn't know
That's
about
if you know the rules.
Yeah, if you know the rules.
You're
right.
the new kid on the block.
If you don't know anybody, then you just get beat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the problem, that the Republicans are trying to fight clean, and the Democrats don't.
Yeah.
Nobody called a fair one. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Hey, because we're starting to get low on time. Hey, I want to talk about Oklahoma enacting universal school choice.
Yeah.
We have joined several other states now. We became the 7th state now to enact universal school choice. Mm-hmm. And the governor says it's because it shouldn't be just for the rich or those who can afford it.
Right.
And, of course, people have a conniption fits on social media and everywhere. I just responded to some lady, I forget her name. You would know her on Twitter, and she's a state rep or something. And the usual Democrat line, of she's trying to paint it the other way around, that trying to make it private schools. We're going to pay the rich to go to the private schools, and sorry, lady, but maybe you should have gone to a private school instead of that public school education you got that doesn't understand how it works.
Well, and she's probably getting campaign donations from the teachers union.
Obviously,
But,
obviously.
Yeah, and there are some misnomers about it that we got to clear up, and this is one. One is...
But wait, let me just finish my thought, okay?
Yeah.
So, essentially, because the misconception of people is, for some reason, they have this thing that, well, first of all, they think private schools are for rich white kids. That's the picture that has been tried to be implanted in the minds of poor whites and minorities. Mm-hmm. When you think private school, you think of Holland Hall, Heritage Hall, these high-end private schools. Mm-hmm. So there are a number of high-end private schools out there available right now. Christian schools, a lot of church schools.
That run as a ministry.
Run as a ministry. There's many of them, and there are opportunity scholarships that have been available, and they particularly seek out low-income families to help those kids to have a school choice. So for these people to still use that, it's disingenuous. They're basically lying through their teeth because they're trying to support the teachers union. So now go ahead and talk about this bill.
Well, so first of all, the state constitution says the state shall make sure everybody gets a common education. Now, back when it was written, common education was up through 8th grade. And school started in November and ended in March. Okay, so that was really the context of it. But the state pays for the biggest chunk of public education. There are federal programs, federal money, and then there's county taxes, property taxes, as well as some sales tax in some ways. But so here's the thing: if the state's already spending $7,000 per kid because they fund the public schools on average daily attendance. Mm-hmm. What the state is saying, for families that don't opt into this government program we have, but they are educating, they have an eligible kid, let's go ahead and let that family have that portion back to pay for what they are doing.
Right.
So no private school is getting state money.
Right.
The families are getting a tax credit to offset their actual tuitions.
Right. And just to be clear, so it basically ends up per pupil funding. So let's say a school has 2,000 students, okay, and there's a certain amount for 2,000 students, and let's say it ends up 7,000 per student. Well, you take 1,000 students out, then you're still going to have that per 7,000, but it's per 1,000 students instead of 2,000 students. The per pupil amount remains the same. That's not changed. Right. So the misunderstanding is that we're taking this funding. We're not taking per pupil funding. We just have less pupils to divide. And in a way, it actually makes it better because that 1,000 students now can get more attention for the same amount of money.
It's even worse than that, Eddie. The way
you mean better than that?
From this perspective, it's more corrupt in the favor of the old school district.
You're talking about currently. I mean, not by taking more students.
Next year, let's say this year, Wagner Public Schools,
right.
Let's say they have 2,000 students. And let's say next year, about 300 of them switch to a private school. Mm-hmm. They will still get paid at Wagner Public Schools for what they had the previous year. They will get funding for ghost
they still
students.
Get the three. Oh, I didn't know.
Those are called ghost students.
Okay.
Because
I thought the 300, their money follows them where they go.
It should. But right now, because the way our legislatures handle funding, both school districts potentially will get to claim that kid for 1 year.
Oh, for 1 year.
Because what you get to do with the public schools is get your state funding on this year's actual attendance, or if it's lower than last year's, you get to just put up last year's number and say, pay us what we were getting paid last year. And is that fair? No.
No. But that only lasts for 1 year.
Yes.
And then after.
But the person getting the full funding for a GO student that they're not paying a teacher for, they're not paying books for, or anything else, that's the public schools are getting that. Because
right.
I guarantee you, if I'm getting this tax credit and then next year my kid goes to public school, do you think I'll get that tax credit next year while my kid's going? No. You and I don't get for GO students funding, but the public schools do.
Yeah.
So there will be that problem, but the corruption to the harm of our state budget is caused by the public schools. Now, the legislature's at fault for that. Mm-hmm. They set this up.
Yeah, sure.
But they set up long ago when the OEA controlled the legislature. So what I'm saying is, public school, if you're upset because next year you'll have 10% less kids, but you're still getting funded for last year's, you're getting money for nothing. So I just shut up about it. Really. And
here's the other thing that a lot of people don't understand, and that is your bond money. Mm-hmm. See, that's on top of this funding. So the private schools that the kids go to, they don't get bond money. Mm-hmm. Bond money is purely for facilities.
Yeah.
Your building, your stadiums, your sports, your school buses, you name it, all of that kind of stuff. So you're still going to get all of that, whatever you appropriated for bond.
Parents won't get any of that returned back to them.
Right.
They only get the state funding portion, not the property tax portion.
Well, the property tax, but the property tax is still going to go to the school.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. You're talking about when they leave, the ones who leave.
Right.
Yeah, they don't get any of that.
Right.
No, the school still gets it.
Right.
So GO students or no students, the school is still going to get that same money. So actually, in a way, your school is better off because you're getting more money for less students.
Yeah.
So what they're whining about, I have no idea.
Right. So if I'm paying this so that there's a decent bus to come pick up my kid and take my kids to school, and next year, and all of a sudden, I got to drive my kids over to St. Mary's, but I'm still paying for that bus that I'm no longer using.
Right, exactly.
And then on the federal part, because there are federal things but they all have hoops to jump through to get that money. And I want to go into that later when we talk about what the legislature's up to. Now, because
later today or another.
It's a separate topic.
Yeah, we'll do that another time.
So that's what's going on now. Soonerpolitics.org. David Van Risken, my own blog. If you look back a few weeks ago, I did an interactive map of over 200 private schools in the state. And I encourage people right now, you're too late probably for most of these schools to get them enrolled next year. But because a lot of them already had waiting lists even before this came up. But there are some schools that are going to be available. If that school is not accredited with a private association that accredits schools, you'll get the homeschoolers much lower tax credit of $1,000 per child instead of the $7,500. Is that fair? I don't think it is. I don't think it comes close because my daughter, her high school years, we homeschooled her, but she took some co-op classes. I was spending a good $2,500 a year on her education. Mm-hmm. And now they're going to cap it at $1,000. That's pathetic. Oh, and it's not a straight up $1,000 on that. It's you have to show us receipts for every dollar of that. So the homeschoolers aren't getting nearly the kind of, and then the non-accredited, and there's like 60 of them on the map I've got. Some of them are Catholic schools, been around. Some of them are religious schools that have been since before statehood. But they just decided, you know what, we're a ministry. We're not going to jump through hoops to get somebody else to approve of our ministry and tell us how to run it. So they have never been accredited. Don't want to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it in a nutshell. The tax commission is going to oversee this program, not the State Department of Education. So there are going to be some rules coming out about just how you apply, but you should be able to get that about the time your first tuition payments due at a school. And some of these schools, by the way, are much lower than $7,500 per year. So you'll actually get whatever it costs. Regent, last I saw, was like $4,000. I don't think
that's a bargain. I mean, really, $4,000 because Regent. I mean,
not Regent. I'm sorry, Rejoice.
Okay, I was going to say because Regent.
Yeah, Regent's more. Four of my grandkids go there.
If you can even get in.
Right, they had a waiting list long before
that's,
now.
That's so hard.
But Rejoice, which is up north side of Owasso.
Yeah, that's the newer one.
They're incredible, and they've got some of the best athletic programs too.
Them and Lincoln. And Rejoice are the two really. Yeah,
so now Victory Christian Schools, where your kids went, they were one of the more moderate price private schools. Mm-hmm. So, some of the other, Holland Hall, Cassidy School, which is a Catholic school, last I looked, and I think this is old numbers, $23,000 a year to send your kid to Cassidy.
Ooh, 23, that's college. College tuition there.
Yeah.
Which Catholic church is it associated with?
It's not.
It's not?
No,
it's an independent Catholic.
I think it's some monks, yeah.
Because, you have Montecasino down, and then Bishop Kelly. Right.
Yeah, right. And Cassia Hall.
Cassia.
I don't know if that was Jesuits or Augustine. I forget what order monks, but yeah. So anyway, Ryan Walters is getting hit hard by Republicans.
The Republicans.
By Republicans. I'm going to name names.
With friends like these. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, please do name names.
Mark McBride has been dogging this guy since before he got elected and trashing him to no end. And McBride stood on the floor of the House.
Where is he in Oklahoma City?
He's from Moore.
Moore. Okay.
Yeah, this is his last term, if I remember right.
Good.
Yeah, and Mark stood and sponsored a bill that passed the House with 2/3 of the House voting for it, for emergency measure. And it was this. That was going to tie the hands of Ryan Walters. There are federal grants, and every grant has long lists of requirements to meet the requirement of that grant, stipulating it. And Ryan Walters said, a lot of those grants cost us more money to implement than we actually get. So we're better off without it. Now, if you were some leftist school in New York City or Boston, that you were already running your school district by those leftist policies and procedures, you might have been spending money anyway. But in Oklahoma, we don't live like that. Our society isn't ordered like that. But the people who write those requirements at the Department of Education in Washington, they put all of their favorite requirements on it. And so Walters said, a lot of those we're just going to quit implementing. We're going to quit applying for. We're just going to take control of our own education here. And this bill that passed yesterday said that any current grant that we're getting, Ryan Walters is going to need permission from the Speaker of the House and the Senate pro temp in order to quit applying for that grant.
To quit applying instead of to apply for it.
Right.
That's weird.
That if the two of those people, not the governor,
right,
but if the Speaker and the Senate pro temp both agree that, no, we need to keep getting that grant, then he's bound to apply for it and submit to it. They're taking over his role as state superintendent of public schools. And this is a real problem. And now, here's the thing. That bill will go to the Senate, likely to have the same kind of support in the Senate, and it'll go to Governor Stitt. Governor Stitt likely will veto it, and then it'll go back for an override. Now, did the legislature adjourn sine die yesterday? Yes, they did. But they already circulated a petition to go into special session. They went around the governor. If they have a certain supermajority support for going into special session, they can do it without the governor. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't even ask the governor. And one of the reasons they stated for doing this, which now extends, they are now in special session, is so that they can call a vote to override any veto by the governor. Again, it looks like they've got support.
So they can do it when he's when they're out of session.
Well, they're going to be in session.
I mean, yeah,
in special session,
in
right?
Special session, yeah.
And it looks like that's exactly what they're trying to do. So not only are they taking over what is typically the governor's purview, but now all of a sudden they're taking over Department of Education's control on things. And they're giving it to the Speaker of the House and the Senate pro temp personally.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, in their capacity, in their office. And so this is a real problem. Folks, we have got an out-of-control legislature.
It sounds like it.
It really
Sounds
does.
like it.
Yeah.
Sounds like it.
So that's what's going on. Stitt, Stitt's got a lot of allies on the conservative right, what we used to call the old Platform Caucus in the House and the Freedom Caucus in the Senate. Nathan Dahm, for instance, some of the other real conservative people. And there's a whole bunch I could list. As soon as I list some, there are going to be others that I didn't. They're going to be offended. But there were about 15 Republicans voted against this measure that I'm talking about. And so it passed with a bare minimum 68, which is required. And I think there were 5 or 6 people didn't vote. I don't know where they're at. But you're going to have to call your legislator and say, hey, this has gone too far. Okay? Because McCall and Treat, Senator Treat, Speaker McCall, they're both in their last term. They're not up for re-election, and so they're not having to.
So they're just running roughshod over everything.
Yeah, they're going to do whatever they want to do.
Where's Treat from? Also the other side of the state?
He's from the Edmond area.
Yeah.
North side of Oklahoma City. Yeah. And he was the one that really wanted. By the way, we passed the biggest budget ever. We've got a $1.2 billion surplus that we're not spending, and still they won't cut taxes. A lot of these are the same ones who voted for and pushed through the tax increases in 2018 that hurt us badly. And yet this session, they actually increased some taxes. The tax for 911 service on your cell phone bill went up another 40%. Because of legislation, or it's about to, as soon as that kicks in. Yeah. And why?
So, I don't understand who's voting for this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, what it is, apparently we've got a disengaged public, of which I am one, uninformed and disengaged.
Well, and there are some things we needed to increase spending on. For instance, the folks that handle your precinct polling place, they're having to work a 13-hour day for about $100.
Right, but I mean that's what twice a year.
No, you got to find people to work.
No, I understand, but what I'm saying, that's a minor thing. That's not a big thing to increase.
Right. No, I agree with you on that.
But a cell phone 40%.
Yeah,
that's a hike.
Well, that 911 service. That fee went 40% high. Will go 40% higher than it is. Not your whole bill.
Yeah, okay, but to me, is it warranted? Because a lot of times, from what I've heard, the 911 service isn't that good anyway.
Well, no. First of all, it's the state took over the local 911s, Tulsa paid for their own. Oklahoma City paid for their own. And now that we've got ours, the legislature about 7-8 years ago decided, you know what, we need statewide. State's going to take it over. And then they tripled the 911 tax from 25 cents to 75 cents. They tripled it so that the rural areas would have a state-of-the-art 911 system. So most of the taxes coming from urban areas to pay for rural 911. We paid for our own. Now we got to pay for theirs. Shouldn't even be on the bill. There should be no tax. And now it's gone through its second tax increase. It's going from 25 cents a month to $1.25 a month in the last 7 years. That's the kind of corruption we're seeing. And they will not cut taxes, even though our rainy day is maxed out. We still have $1.2 million that we haven't spent on anything. And they won't cut taxes. And Governor Stitt has fought a bunch of things. He says, until you guys will pass a tax cut, I'm not signing these. And they're just overriding all his vetoes.
See,
they overrode, I think, a dozen of his vetoes yesterday, or something like a bunch of them. I quit watching, It's
crazy.
It really is. You've got the leadership teams, both houses, they're pretty much in their last term, and they're going to do whatever they're going to do. They wasted more of this session fighting over who gets credit for this school choice tax credit. So much so that they said, we really haven't worked on the budget. And that was their excuse of why they need to do special session.
Yeah. So what we've got to do is put a good new crop in next time.
Yeah.
And do not let them elect leaders who are selfish, pompous idiots.
Yeah.
And then vote and reverse a lot of this stuff is what we got to do.
Now, I have to say the Senate is very splintered, okay? Nathan Dahm probably was within a few votes of being able to take over Speaker Pro Temp, but he just didn't quite get there. You had three factions of Republicans there. On the House side, Charles McCall is just so independently wealthy. He has his own jet, and he just gave the max money to everybody's reelection campaign 8 years ago. And in exchange for, vote for me for Speaker. I mean, he hadn't been in office but 4 years, and he's Speaker. And so this is going to be a full 8 years for him. Yeah. Now, we could have done worse than McCall, but, because there are some that are worse than McCall. And in a lot of ways, McCall has been good. But, McCall was absolutely 100% against this school choice tax credit last year.
Yeah, I remember. And
they, some private think tanks nationally just hammered him. And he got sick of it, and all of a sudden he wanted to be the champion of it. And you know what? Greg Treat says, no, I'm the champion of private school. And they fought over who's the champion. And that was it. That's all this was a fight is who gets to take credit. Yeah.
Children.
Yeah. Hey, it's Memorial Day.
Yes.
And I just want to say thank you for everybody who's given of your life in defense of our nation.
Yeah, I want to go back and have people just kind of understand where this came from. It came from the Civil War is where it began.
Thank you. I was going to bring that up.
And
Decoration Day, I think.
Decoration Day is what it was called. And there's a little dispute. I believe it's true that it actually began in South Carolina. No, I'm sorry, Savannah, Georgia.
Okay.
There's a graveyard in some of the ex-slaves. The women, they wanted to decorate the graves of the Union soldiers that had fought there. And all these bodies, they were. What happened? There were so many dead bodies, and so what they did, they took them, they buried them all in, and they wanted them to be remembered. And that's how it began. And then up in north in Massachusetts, then from that idea, they had some women get together and do it in later in 1865. And that's when they actually gave credit. But I believe it actually began there in Savannah.
Yeah, it always used to be on the 30th of May. And I remember it didn't matter what day of the week it was. As a Boy Scout, I always marched in my municipal Memorial Day parade, and then they bussed us up there to the veterans portion of the municipal cemetery, and we had all kinds of speakers, in there, and then they fed us lunch down at the VFW, and all of a sudden the government workers and the union workers all wanted Memorial Day to be on a Monday, so they get an extra holiday. And you know what? So that they could be out at the lake instead of marching in the parade, or and all of a sudden all of these municipal celebrations kind of died out. In my hometown, central Minnesota, Little Falls, still honors it. But I came down here, worked for a chain of florist, Rathbones, Flair Flowers, and I had started a separate wing where we had truck vendors go out that last weekend and sell flowers from roadside stands, kind of clear out our warehouse.
I remember that.
And Eddie, do you know the biggest sales locations were in the black parts of town? I'm telling you, the black folk in Tulsa make a bigger to-do about Memorial Day than any other ethnic portion of our city. I mean, there were some god-awful, to me, looking flower arrangements, designs, and colors, and boy, they sold in North Tulsa, but the rest of us like, don't put that on my grave. But because, for whatever reason. But
it's a cultural thing.
It is, because, it started out as a military thing, but then everybody decorated Grandpa's grave and Grandma's grave, whether they were military or not. And it became a time of year everybody went out to the family plots. And the black folk really did that here in Tulsa, bigger than any other portion of the city. So, there's just something we can learn from all.
Yeah. No, I agree. But, that Decoration Day, but that's how it began, to decorate the lives lost in the Civil War to free the slaves.
So it's a racist holiday then.
It is a racist holiday.
Yeah, because what I had heard was it was a Confederate thing, that the Confederates were honoring their war dead originally.
No, it was the other way around. It was honoring the Union soldiers who died in liberating the slaves.
Okay.
And the slaves are the ones who actually began
the black folk.
The black folk to honor those who fought and died. Yeah. Because what happened, their graves were unmarked. There's just a bunch of bodies. Yeah. And so they decided they deserved a decent burial and to be remembered. Yeah. And that's why they buried them and then decorated their graves in Thanksgiving for setting them free. So a little bit of history there.
My great uncle Prudent Van Rissighem was grave number 1 at a little cemetery. He died in World War I. As a train engineer, went back to free his homeland, Belgium, and his train hit a mine and blasted in pieces. They found a few parts of his body. But later his body was moved to Flanders Field, as they consolidated all of these little cemeteries.
Flanders Fields, where
and
grow.
In fact, last summer I was up at the Legion Post in Onamia, Minnesota, named after Prudent Van Rissighem. But the shirt I wear today is in honor of my father, who is a Korean War veteran, suffered PTSD, and later in life it really was traumatizing. Now, the VA wanted to pump him full of benzodiazepine tranquilizers. Most of my childhood, my dad was on tranquilizers, addicted to them. And so I wanted him to have, I want veterans today to have what my dad didn't have. And that's why Eddie gives me a hassle every so often about the whole cannabis thing, and I'm just looking at it as a mental health treatment.
So you're gonna smoke a weed in his honor?
I am not
a joint.
I am not. I am not.
Here's
But
to you,
yeah, but I tell you what, it's
memorial.
yeah. But I appreciate it. And
memorial.
Yeah, hey Eddie, quick primer. There's Armed Forces Day. There's Veterans Day.
Right.
There's Memorial Day. Now, Veterans Day is to honor all veterans.
All veterans.
But this holiday is for those who
died
fallen.
in combat.
Died in combat, yeah.
Right.
And
a lot of people get that confused. They want to honor all veterans, but no, this is specifically for those who died in combat.
Yeah, now Veterans Day used to be called Armistice Day. Yeah. It was just to recognize World War I, but now we just kind of turned it into. Yeah. And
that's it's in October?
November 11th.
November
11th. 11/11.
Veterans Day, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's when, like, my father and my son, it's funny, I've got one on either end. I missed out. But, yeah.
You ungrateful generation.
At least
you hippie.
I do get to honor it. I remember, and I'm thankful to them that they did it for us.
Now, Eddie, you were the generation at the height of the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know people who got sent there.
Oh, yeah. I had two my buddies in the Boy Scouts when I was 12 years old, and I had two guys that I was in Boy Scouts with, Sam Oates and the other one, Blue Cunningham. Yeah. And when I go to the Vietnam Memorial, I look and see their names on the memorial. And
they've fallen there.
And my cousin, Milton Huff's another one. In fact, Milton was one of the early ones in 65 already. He went in early as a Marine, and he went in like at 17.
Yeah.
And he was a twin. Milton and Hilton, and he went in to the Marines, and he died early on.
Yeah. We talked about the much bigger issues with PTSD that we're finding lately. And I've often said it's because of our all-volunteer armed forces, because now they end up going 3 and 4 tours, whereas World War I, you served your tour and then you were done.
But the tours were a lot longer then. See, now it's a 13-month tour. Mm-hmm. Back in when you went to World War I mean World War II, if you went to Germany, for example, or Japan, in Europe, you might spend 3 years over there.
But we didn't really. I mean,
just think about it. We entered in 41.
Well, we started sending troops in 42.
Right, but it started in 41, and then, of course, what was it? Billy, what's his name, sent the first planes to Tokyo.
Yeah, that was in 42.
It was a month later, because December 7th was 41, but so it would have been.
So really for us, the war was 3 years and some odd change.
Right, but the guys, when they landed on D-Day, they didn't leave until 45.
Right.
Right.
But D-Day was 42, or 44 was D-Day.
Right. But they still, that took them a year to clean it out until they got over to Germany and Europe. So, I mean, the same guys that started.
That's true. Because we didn't mess around with nation building.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, but the reason you were born in Germany is because we did leave troops stationed there. Mm-hmm. Your dad met your mom after the war, right?
Right. But back to the original thing. I mean, in those days, if you went over in 42, say, and then, you started out on Normandy, and then you went down through.
Now, let's go back. North Africa was before that. We had troops fighting Germans in North Africa. Patton's troops.
Right, but.
I'm sorry.
Come on. My goodness. Normandy is in France.
Right.
Okay. So you hit the beach in Normandy, and then we went all the way through. And it took Battle of the Bulge and then all over into finally across the Rhine River. And then you move your way all the way across Germany. And then finally you end up in Austria. And You wanted Patton wanted you to meet what's his name, not Montgomery, what's his name, from the Pacific coming the other way.
Yeah, MacArthur.
They wanted to meet in Moscow.
Yeah.
But I mean, so you got basically 2.5, 3 years of guys.
Yeah, you're right.
Over there the whole time versus nowadays, a tour. My dad was in Vietnam. It was 13 months.
Yeah.
And that was a full tour. But now you got guys, they're doing multiple tours. There's guys did
back
5
forth,
tours. Doing 5 tours in Iraq.
Yeah.
And in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And they'll do maybe 2, 3 good ones and then get blown up. Come back with missing a leg on the 4th tour or something.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would want to do.
Or their brains messed up. They just cannot integrate back into society because they've just been going from one alternate reality to another, back and forth.
But I'll tell you what though, I have to say, I think that's a part of. I think we may have had this discussion, and we're way over. This is our post-show show. You have to edit the music in between.
All right.
But bye everybody. Click. No, but seriously, what I think a part of the PTSD, because I've seen it. It happened to me a little bit after I graduated from college. In the whole fraternity life. But, you bond with the band of brothers. Mm-hmm. You bond with this group of guys. Mm-hmm. And, I saw it in the missionary life, okay? You form this fellowship and this bond with this group of guys that you'll never bond again with anybody else. Mm-hmm. I mean, your life depends on them, and their lives depend on you. You're sleeping at night. You're hearing each other snore, talking in your sleep, pass gas, everything. All the good, the bad. You see them getting letters from their girlfriends telling them they found somebody new. Mm-hmm. Heartbroken, their joys, their this and that. Yeah. Everything good. It's there's nothing tighter than a band of brothers.
Yeah.
You come back to America, and you cannot find that.
Yeah,
you just can't find it. I came from Europe as missionaries, and had this group of people over there that my wife and we had this group of friends over there, German, Dutch, Americans, Finnish, Swedish, that we are lifelong comrades with, brothers and sisters with. We come back here, we come home, drive the car into the garage door goes down. Our neighbors drive into their garage. I've lived on my street now for 7 years, and other than the 2 houses next and across the street, I don't know anybody up the street.
Yeah.
7 years, don't know any of these people. and the ones on either side, I just kind of know them. You know what I'm saying? So, but to be separated from that. I remember I was in Uganda, and this young kid, he's about 20 years old, and I come into the hut one day, and the kid's there on his knees crying.
Wow.
And I said, "Are you okay? What's going on?" And he tells me that he's crying because he's getting ready to go home. He's going back to the States, and he's scared to death because he knows he already could see it. He said he'll never experience what he experienced in his life with Youth with a Mission, and then especially being there in Uganda, being with that team that we had and everything, and he didn't know if he could handle it. He was having pre-TSD instead of PTSD. He was having pre-TSD. He was already having that anxiety that he was that he was perceiving himself have.
Yeah.
And he was afraid. His big fear was that he was going to backslide when he got home.
Yeah.
And but anyway, that to me was the big thing I saw coming out of then and in Vietnam, paranoia, schizophrenia, a lot of we call PTSD today, I think, is the fact that these guys come home and they just feel so alone. It's like they feel abandoned, and you're just kind of there.
See, I think
nobody understands.
Yeah, I think that's a foundational struggle everybody has, and that's not PTSD. PTSD is another that a few on top of that deal with, but they all deal with that reassimilation, that separation anxiety,
But I think the problem is that some never recover from that. I think it leads them into the deeper part of PTSD. Mm-hmm. In other words, that some of them, let's say most of them, mm-hmm. just deal with it. They somehow work through it,
right?
And but you have that group that doesn't, mm-hmm. and so they, some of them it ends up they deal with it through drugs, or they deal with it through some other thing. And some alcohol. Of them have alcohol's another
Big time.
Yeah, you're true.
We set up a whole bunch of VFW posts to provide liquor. I mean, let's face it, that was our VA.
That's our answer, how to fuel it instead of
go get drunk with the boys.
Oh my goodness, wow. I didn't think of that, yeah.
It's
and that goes back in history. I mean, so we've been dealing with it that way forever.
Yeah. As Homer Simpson said,
the Vikings.
To alcohol, the solution to all men's troubles, and also the cause of all men's troubles.
Oh my goodness! That's true. Wow, that's.
But
crazy.
Yeah, that was the easy way out for the VA. I mean, just like with my dad, with the tranquilizers.
Yeah.
Well, the flashbacks weren't happening, so it caused success.
And rather than actually dealing with it, it exacerbated everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really was just kind of, okay, you may be a zombie, but there's no flashback, so we count that as a success. You're successfully treated. You're a zombie, you're addicted to benzos, but no flashbacks, so we're good.
Yeah.
This is the problem with the short-sightedness of it. And that was the only reason why I wanted a solution other than benzos for the guys really struggling with flashbacks, panic attacks, which is separate from the baseline. Everybody's got the readjustment into civilian life, and that can be really hard, especially if you've been at forward operating base or doing the kinds of intense things the Navy SEALs do, is because it's really tough. But I think for the guys that serve 3 or 4 tours, it's just they're more at home there than they are here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It's a crazy thing because you get used to that. That is home. That is what you're like, and they come home and they don't like it. It just isn't. It isn't right.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's weird how that is, and you get to the point you don't like the people.
Yeah.
You don't like the regular people.
By the way, there's a book I'm going to be getting. I got to read this. It's called Masculine Virtues. It was by Senator Hawley of
Josh
Hawley
from Missouri.
And I like the fact that masculinity is a virtue. There are certain things that masculinity does to enhance our culture, society, and we've been under attack. Masculinity itself is under attack.
I'll tell you what, Josh Hawley, to me, is the senator among senators.
Yeah.
What I like about Josh Hawley is he's humble. He's not trying to be anything. He's not looking for his next office. Mm-hmm. He's not. And when you see him interrogating witnesses or talking to people, he just goes straight to the thing. If we could reproduce him 49 more times, we'd be in much better shape.
Yeah.
Too bad we don't have more more like him. There are a few. I mean, there are a few others out there, but boy, that guy's good. Every time I see him, there's so many videos of him on YouTube. But his questioning, the way he handles him. I mean, there's one where he's talking to this black young lady, and she's just being as nasty and snarky. It's about, defining a woman.
Yeah.
You've probably seen it where she,
She's an academic, a college professor, if I remember right.
She's about as smart as a rock.
Yeah.
And she's trying to pretend, about men being women. That, unbelievable, this thing. But just the nastiness that comes across. And he's just being cool and calm. And I'm thinking, I would have just let her have it.
Oh, God, yeah.
I would have just unleashed upon this girl, So, hey, listen, we better wrap it up. Hey,
good today.
Happy Memorial Day to everybody, and to remember those people who gave their lives so we could live free in this nation. And let's fight for that freedom. Let's not give in to these socialists wanting to be communists that are trying to take over our country. I don't care what they call themselves, what they are trying to do to our nation. We need to stand and fight on our knees, first of all, and then with everything we have in our power politically and every other way. So anyway, just hang in there, everybody, and we shall overcome. All right. David, we'll see you next week.
Betcha.
See you next week, everybody.